Welcome friends. Let's discuss the third session of our theory and practices of personal finance. Today we'll be discussing about the asset selection. We started understanding the risk, we started understanding the asset allocation. Now we will apply those theories into the real life situations. How you and I can actually select various asset classes, sub asset classes, going to this level of securities to fulfill our requirements, needs and dreams. So what we'll do is we'll take examples today, right? That will be very easy for us to connect. Where do we stand? So let us take, there are four gentlemen, Raghav, Govind, Shyam and Madhusudhan. First of all, we will try to understand who are these people, right? When I say who are these people, what we are trying to understand is what are their characteristics, what is their age, experience, knowledge, what they work, how stable or unstable their incomes are, asset that they have garnered over the years during their journey, and likes of that. So the four guys, this guy is a starter at 25 years, this is at 34 years, 47 and 55. This guy is a graduate, this is graduate, MBA, he's just starting as an executive. This guy is at a senior manager level. This is at a senior management level. Let's say VP, SVP status. And this guy is again a mid manager. Right? So if you notice that they are at a various stages of life, what I also looked at is what are their family situation. So this guy is a single, right now living with parents. He has a family, young kid, family, grown up kids, or rather teenage kids. This guy is also family plus grown up kids. In terms of assets, this guy doesn't have home, no home. When I say no home, no own home, this guy is own home, again own home. Likewise, if I look at their liquid assets, this guy has just, let's say, 1 lakh rupees of savings so far. This gentleman has in all PF, PPF, etc., plus some equity, some mutual funds, all put together, he has something around 12 lakhs. This guy is at a good, somewhere in the range of 60 to 70 lakhs. And this gentleman is around 50 lakhs. Now this all includes PF, PPF, equity, mutual fund, all types of liquid assets. I'll also look at how much their insurance needs are done. So no life, this guy has life and medical both. This guy has life, medical. This guy has life but endowment, which is nothing but money back policy. So I keep on investing with a thought that I'll be getting it back. It is important that how much income they are earning. So 45,000 per month, 80,000 per month. This is in the range of 400,000, which is 4 lakh per month, and this is in the range of 175,000 per month. This is a very important determinant to show where do we stand. Now, if I look at this picture, you will start observing that not all are at same stages in life. They may have different needs, they may have different requirements, their ability to take or absorb risk is equally different. You may clearly associate yourself with one of these 4 stages. So if I look at, when we were looking at Raghav, what we found is that he doesn't have any specific need as of now, right? So whatever he is earning, he is basically happily spending everything. So he is not saving anything, no clear, I would say, needs as of now. In case of Govind, what we found is basically he wants to buy a house in 5 years and obviously also generally save money. In case of Shyam, obviously the important needs are child's education, and he has started thinking about retirement now. For him, its child's wedding is very important, and obviously the most important for him is retirement, which is now playing in his mind. This is all education, and wedding is, you can say, somewhere in the range of 7 years, 5 to 7 years is what they are looking at. In case of retirement, for him it is at 47, I would say 13 to 15 years. For him it is very imminent, which is in the range of 5 to 7 years. So this is the whole picture that we are into. Now obviously one size doesn't fit all, right? We need to have a very distinct advice for each of them, distinct needs for each of them, hence their asset allocation, or rather investments or savings, has to be accordingly allocated. So now let us look at what we can suggest them. But first thing first, what are the basic rules that we had looked at? The basic rule is, if I have a longer time horizon to reach my goal, right, I can look at equity. So longer is the time horizon, longer will be the equity, right? Similarly, if I am looking for stability, I am looking for my comfort, surety, safety. The more I look for, the more it takes me towards the debt side, right? Obviously, the balance will tell us how much equity should be there, how much debt should be there, and obviously if my risk appetite is higher, my equity proportion will be higher. So this is the basic rule. How much I can absorb, what are the risks I should take, in what proportion I should take, what are the various asset class that I should take. But before getting into that, let us look at some other nuances so that we can then merge these two together. So longer time horizon and higher risk appetite leads me to get more equity, either direct equity, equity mutual funds, or likes of that. But the more I am looking for safety, stability, lesser of concerns, the more I will be shifting towards debt side. So let us look at how does debt or equity looks at my portfolio. So if you have 1 year in horizon, historically what we have seen, equity can give me even 100% return or even minus 50% return. So the range is very wide in the first year. So if I have first, second, third, fourth, 5, 6 accordingly, what happens, this range starts shrinking. So as we go ahead in equity, this range starts shrinking, and at some point in time, somewhere around 7th year onwards, this zero negative return is actually becoming positive, and this is like my, let's say, 10%, 12%. So it remains in this range now. So equity chart, if you look at, while it is primarily trending upwards, but you will have lots of ups and downs, right? Lots of ups and downs. Now this is something very difficult. So this I would say equity, and this line which is very less volatile, very extremely less volatile, something like this, is your debt line, right? So more or less they that shows the volatility in each of these class, and that is precisely the reason why do we say that equity should be used when you have a very long horizon, your risk appetite is high. If you can withstand this kind of fluctuation to get an additional return. So let me not end this year, let me end this year, because in the long run the equity return will be somewhere here, the debt return will be here. Correct? So keeping this in mind, let us now look at the asset allocation for the 4 people that we had looked at. So for Raghav, who is 24 years, right now earning 45,000, what I would suggest is, because he has really long-term needs, he doesn't need money at this point in time, he should keep maximum money in equity. So for him, I would recommend put 100% in equity, right? Even if it is a balanced fund of, let's say, 25%, where you have some amount of debt, it is categorized as equity only. In case of Govind, who is now 34 years, earning 80K, here I would recommend 75% in equity and 25% in debt. The reason is, one of his requirement is just 5 years when you want to buy a home. So he needs a down payment, and for that down payment he has to have a lot of certainty inbuilt within his portfolio. In case of Shyam, who is at 47 years, good income, here also I wanted, if I look at very simply, it looks like he's in a very high risk category. High risk means in the sense he can take high risk. His appetite is really high, education wise, experience wise, asset wise, everything. But here also he has 5 to 7 year horizon for his kids' education, which is very certain. So the recommendation here is you should have 40% in equity. And last, for Mr. Madhusudan, who is 55 years now, approaching his retirement, for him the stability and safety of money is of extreme importance. So what we are recommending him, income is 175k. For him it is 80% equity. My mistake, 80% debt and only 20% equity. Because his both the needs of kids' wedding is coming up in 5 to 7 years, and he has a big retirement overhang which needs to be done. Once we have looked at this whole portfolio, this whole picture clearly, that is now time that I should move on to the next level, that what is that I should recommend, how they are likely, how that portfolio is likely to behave, what is the expected return of this portfolio based on some of the historical evidences, some of the YTMs which the portfolio is offering as far as debt funds are concerned. Now let us look at the different portfolio compositions. So in case of Raghav, now when we have said 100%, obviously let's say 25% each you are allocating, right? In fact, what we had recommended is it should look at the balanced fund rather than a small cap. Now given the scenario, what we realized based on the historical return and the expected return at this point in time, his weighted average will come somewhere around 12.40%. Obviously this is, you also keep in mind, this is the highest risk category. So when you are expecting higher return, it will come with high risk attached to it. So just do not look at the return itself. This return can be really deceiving if you do not fall into this category. If this is to apply to Mr. Madhusudan, it could be disastrous. I would not be actually advising him correctly. So first of all, what situation this guy is into versus what situation Mr. Madhusudan is, that is what will decide what level of equity I am offering. In case of Madhusudan ji, if I have to offer 25% or 20% equity also, I'll only restrict to the large cap. I will not go beyond that, because what I am trying to benefit is from the in general equity market movement. I am not making any speculation at all, right? And this 20% is because his 80% corpus is going to be debt, which is good enough. So 80% is going to be debt, which is good enough for in the long run. This is the debt portfolio, this is how it will grow. This 20%, even though it is less, even though it is volatile, it will still give you comfort. And as I move beyond 6 or 7 years, obviously this I will see a good trend here. So that is the reason there is some bit of equity here, even when he is approaching his retirement in next 5 years, 5-7 years. In case of Govind, obviously the part of debt portion is largely into, let's say, AAA corporate bonds, which can give at this point in time somewhere around 6.5 to 7%. And should the interest rate go further down, this will give further price appreciation. So the returns could be in the range of 8 to 9% also. And the rest will be again large cap, mid cap, and some multi cap. In case of Shyam also, the focus is towards getting into the large cap as high as possible. And as I am showing in the slide, uh, you will realize that the returns for each of them vary significantly. So if one is at 12.40%, this one is at 11.59%, then we have 9.28%, and lastly 7.80%. This is their expected investment return given the asset composition that they have. Let me show you a chart which shows how equity and debt has moved over the last 10 years. You will realize very interestingly that both equity and debt has been neck and neck, but there is a huge volatility when it comes to equity for the obvious reasons, right? Whereas debt is a more or less a straight line, both in the short term, also in the long term. So how it is impacting my portfolio? So when I have this kind of composition, right, so there are 4 returns. So if I simply invest 1000 rupees each per month in all these cases, one is like this, second is like this, third is like this, and the fourth is like here, right? So this 1000 for Raghav, so this is Raghav, this is Raghav, this is Govind, this is Shyam, and this is Madhusudhan. So he will reach almost 1 CR at the end of his retirement, which is, let's say, somewhere around 37.5 years from now, 37 and a half, 30, somewhere closer to 40 years. I mean, 40 years it will cross 1 crore. But this is the gap that you can see at various points in time. If I am looking at 20 years, this is the gap. This is 37.5 years. In the first 5 or 10 years, 5 or 7 years, this gap will not be material. But post that, it widens, and it widens significantly. So here I will reach 27 lakhs. I am saying at the 37.5 years, this is 40 lakhs. This one is 78 lakhs, and this is almost 1 CR. Right? This I am talking about investing 1000 rupees per month only. Right? So what makes this possible? You must have seen n number of charts talking about compounding, and I am sure you all are familiar with this compounding benefit. So let us assume we are investing 1000 rupees every month. So in 30 years or 40 years, I will be investing 4.8 lakhs. So that is something closer to 5 lakhs. If I have kept it in fixed deposit, it has grown to a certain level. But if I keep it in growing at the rate of 12%, this number, as we discussed earlier, by the 37th year itself it becomes 1 crore. Right? This is the gap which we are talking about, that is possible, can be achieved, provided there is a long-term patience has to be maintained. The beauty here is the effect of compounding doesn't look significantly high in the beginning, because the slope of this curve is small. This is a small slope, but as we cross certain time, this slope becomes like this. So the angle that it is making is significantly higher than the angle which it is making here. So the slope makes one of the largest difference towards the later part of the period. However, easier said than done. Most of us we do not have the patience to continue with our investments for such a longer period. We become extremely jittery that money is not moving. Plus, in the initial phase, the volatility is also very high. If you are in equity, there are chances that you are in the negative. That is where our patience at some point in time gives up, and we says, okay, whatever is left, let's first withdraw, put it in bank deposit, right? I'm not saying this is wrong. This is a common phenomena that we have observed. But what is happening is you are losing out, or you are withdrawing the money at a time when compounding should have started creating their impact. Now, once you have withdrawn, once you have taken it out, it takes a lot of discipline to come back to the market. Lot of discipline, lot of conviction, lot of gut feel to come back to the market. And whatever you have spent 6 to 7 years, you are again starting from zero, right? Because in the meanwhile, market has moved on. If you are trying to time the market, I wouldn't recommend it very highly. There are possibilities, like in the current pandemic we have seen during the month of March, there was a good opportunity to buy. In 2008 crisis, there was a good opportunity to buy. Those are the few very discrete moments of buying or timing the market to that extent. It is not recommended when you are looking to build your saving piece by piece, small amount every month. In the current parlance, you can call it sip by sip. So to that extent, if you want to build your corpus, be patient. I mean, that is the one single thing I can tell you, be patient. So finally, what we have realized is that we had the 4 gentlemen who were there. For Raghav, if he invests just 6.5 thousand per month, which is closer to 15% of his income, he will, by the time he retires, he will sufficiently have somewhere around 2.50 crore in his corpus in 30 years, right? In case of Mr. Govind, if you recollect, he had 2 needs: buy home and the retirement general saving. So for him it comes somewhere around around 50,000 per month. I mean, obviously this 50,000 is divided into 2 parts. Close to 38,000 is going into for his home purchase, and the 12,000 is for his general investments, or you can call it retirement fund also. This is for 5 years, and this is for good 25 years, right? So what was 15% here, it has gone up to almost like 60% here. But you need to save, otherwise it will become very challenging. So if you have an earning of 80k, you need to look at 50k to save, otherwise you will miss on your plan. In case of Mr. Shyam, the requirement is somewhere around 200k per month, which is again divided into 2 parts. 38 and 127, this is for short term, this is for long term retirement, let's call it, which will yield him. So what is the expected scenario in both the cases? 60 and 500. So it is 60 lakhs and this is 5 crore. And lastly, for Mr. Madhusudhan, this is also, by the way, when I am talking about 400, this comes somewhere around 50% of my income. And for Madhusudhan also, it is 27 and 67. 27, 67, so both put together is 94. What it is likely to yield is 20 lakhs and 75 lakhs by the time he reaches his retirement. As you could recollect, this was at 7.28%, this was at almost 12.40%, this was at 11 point something percent, and this was 9.28 if I recollect correctly. So this is how the dynamics would play. What we are saying is that while Raghav has to save only 15% of his income today, these three will need somewhere in the range of 50 to 60% to be set aside to meet future requirements. Having said that, what are the choices that you should make? How you should go ahead? First thing, you have to go for the definitive or rather forced savings, where you have, which is your PF, PPF, NPS. This has to be your forced saving. This has to go in as the first. Then you should look for your term insurance and medical insurance. These are the two things which will safeguard you against depleting your savings at a wrong time actually. So this I would say first, this I would say second. Then you should also look for your contingency fund. So you can keep it in bank's fixed deposit, some fund. People talk about 3 to 6 months salary, right? So that should be your contingency fund. Then if you have any loans, I would say repay loans. Repaying loans actually gives you a very certain rate. So say for example, I have a car loan at the rate of 8% or 9%. I mean, if I repay this, I am sure short earning 9%. Right? If I have any other personal loan, credit card loan, which is of a very high interest, then I would say please repay it first, because that is your sure short gain. And then comes your discretionary saving. Which you put in equity, capital market, other instruments, etc. So this pecking order, as a middle class, as someone who is looking, who is dependent on monthly income with some asset build up, has a family, parents to look after, lot of social obligations to meet, my personal recommendation would be to go into the pecking order in such a way that not only you save for a longer period, meet your life needs, but also something very important like insurance, contingency funds, repayment of personal loans. This you should look in totality. Okay, so now we will move to the next step, which is execution. Once you have decided your journey, let me tell you, the execution is extremely simple. Execution is nothing but how you are going to execute. Yes, for the first time it is painful. You have to do your KYC. You have to make sure that the information that you have put are correct, because SMSs, emails which will come to you, they should come to you only, no other email ID. So you have to check that your nominations should be in place. As far as possible, have a joint account with your spouse, because in case of death, transmission becomes very easy. So have those things first in place. But the first thing first is you have to pick your advisor correctly, because if your advisor is someone whom you know, who understands the subject better, your life or your journey becomes easy to that extent. So execution, the slide will tell you what all things you should look at. And lastly, monitoring piece. So monitoring, as you can see, we make a mistakes of over monitoring, over supervising, and that is the biggest mistake that we do. So in case of monitoring, while you should know where do I stand in my journey, but you should also be not itching to rebalance your portfolio too many times. You should just focus on what you are focusing at, your needs are, and whether you are fulfilling those needs. There will be ups and downs in the market to that extent. Whenever there is an up and down, you have to put extra money, like in the current scenario, when the market is overall down. uh, I'm hearing both sides of things. People are moving towards more safety to capital, but this is also an opportunity to look at for your long-term savings, because the markets are relatively at a good valuation. So with this, we come to the end of third session. I hope this life examples with the numbers would have helped you understand what you should look at when you are looking at your portfolio. So now the last session of the series in the theory and practice of personal finance. I'll be discussing about the pitfalls of personal finance, and believe me, it is going to be very interesting. You will see things in a very different perspective. So let us tune for that, and with that, let me say goodbye. Namaskar, stay safe. Thank you.